Hey guys, tonight we sail somewhere warm, windy, and utterly forgotten, tucked between the creaking hulls of spice-laden ships and the rain-heavy clouds of the monsoon belt. You're barefoot on damp planks, squinting into salt spray, and desperately trying to remember whether cloves are the ones that numb your tongue, or the ones that make tea taste like your grandma's sock drawer. The water is teal, the air smells like ginger, and somewhere in your satchel is a pouch of star anise that now has a family of ants living inside it. Welcome to the spice routes. Though honestly, you probably won't survive this voyage unless you enjoy moldy biscuits, surprise scurvy, and a lot of time spent trying not to vomit into the wind. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You've just left the port of Calicut, a major spice city along the southwest coast of India, and the deck is already damp with sweat and seawater. The sails above you balloon and groan, full of wind and the occasional gull feather. You're traveling with Arab merchants and Tamil traders, each more concerned with keeping their cardamom dry than with the possibility of pirates. You, meanwhile, are trying to sit still on a crate of turmeric without sneezing yourself into the ocean. A captain barks something in Gujarati. A crewman answers with a yawn. You aren't sure what the plan is exactly, other than float vaguely eastward until the spices run out. But that's fine. No one aboard seems particularly hurried. Your next destination is an island somewhere near the Horn of Africa, and apparently there's an inn there with a roof made entirely from woven coconut husk and old sailcloth. Charming. At night, the ship's tiny oil lamp flickers against the swell. You curl up under a burlap sheet, hoping that no one notices you've stolen a piece of dried mango from the ship's cook. You watch stars blink through the rigging. Somewhere, someone is softly humming, a sailor's lullaby about a cinnamon tree that grew too tall and was struck by lightning. Possibly a metaphor, possibly just a bad poem. Historians still argue whether those old sea shanties carried hidden codes, or were just about livestock and loneliness. There's a surprising amount of calm out here. No phones, no tax forms, just water, wood, and the creak of ropes tightening against the wind. You pass a half-submerged statue in the sea, probably a shrine tossed overboard during a storm or a carved offering left for safe travels. Fringe theories claim some captains kept their own tiny gods, carved from sandalwood tucked under their hammocks. You once saw one shaped like a baby elephant, wearing a fish as a hat. Go figure. The ship rolls gently in the night, and you finally start to doze, head against your bundled cloak, dreaming of gingerbread houses and saffron hills. Tomorrow, the island comes into view, Socotra, if the crew is right. But for now, there's nothing to do but breathe in the salt air, adjust your elbow so it's not poking a barrel of vinegar, and try to forget how many rats you saw earlier during lunch. Just before dawn, the sky bruises pink and orange. Birds wheel overhead. You can smell land, damp moss, wet stone, and the spicy rot of tropical trees. A dull thump announces anchor dropped. There's laughter below deck as the sailors ready their wares. You stretch, yawn, and wonder if the innkeeper will be as generous with his sweet tea as legend claims. According to one board merchant you met 3 days ago, the island's best beds are stuffed with dried clove husks. Keeps the dreams fragrant, he said, while trying to sell you a cracked teapot shaped like a pineapple. He may have been lying, or delirious from heat stroke. Still, it's a pleasant thought, drifting off to sleep on a mattress that smells like spice cake. The captain motions toward the shore. The island is smaller than expected, rocky, sparse trees, but the inn's roof is just visible past a bend in the path, curved and low, made of rope and palm fronds. You gather your things. It's time to disembark. You take one last look at the ship as you step into the shallows, boots squelching. You might never see it again. That's fine. You're on the spice routes now, where the next bed is never quite where you expect, and the pillow might be made of banana leaves, but at least it does. Snore. You step onto the beach at Socotra with the grace of someone who hasn't walked on solid ground in 5 days. Your knees buckle slightly, the world tilts in protest, and you wobble forward like a newborn camel. The air here smells like resin, salt, and something faintly medicinal, possibly the famed dragon's blood trees, or possibly just the inn's questionable laundry pile. The island sand is pale and coarse, the color of crushed coral, and the sun hasn't fully climbed over the hills yet, casting everything in that soft amber that makes even seaweed look poetic. You trudge toward the inn, following a rutted path flanked by squat bushes and the occasional goat staring at you with mild judgment. The goats, by the way, are small, wiry, and widely believed by locals to possess better memory than most visiting traders. The inn is a single-story affair, made from coral blocks and topped with a roof of stitched sailcloth and braided palm leaves. A wooden sign hangs slightly askew above the door, etched with a sun, a jug, and an indecipherable word that might mean welcome or turnips. It creaks lazily in the wind. You duck under the low doorway. Inside, it's cool and dim. Woven mats cover the packed earth floor, and the walls are hung with drying herbs, bay sage, a few bundles of something that smells alarmingly like pickled onion. A wide, slow-moving fan made from stitched reed flaps hangs from the ceiling, nudged occasionally by a sleepy boy with a stick. Behind a short, arched counter, a woman in a saffron headscarf gives you a look that says, "You're not the strangest thing I've seen today, but you're close." She gestures toward a corner room and says something in Arabic that sounds like, "Go rest before you fall over." You nod gratefully, drop a few peppercorns into the little clay dish she sets out. Yes, that's the payment here, raw spice as currency, and shuffle off. Your room is sparse but surprisingly inviting. A mat of pressed goat hair serves as a mattress, with a light cover dyed teal and indigo from crushed lapis and mulberries. There's a wooden chest in the corner, probably empty, and a tiny window overlooking the sea. Next to the bed sits a chipped clay bowl full of dried dates and something suspiciously crunchy that might be candied ginger or very old shell. You lie back and the scent of clove from the bedding makes your eyes flutter. Outside, a bird calls, a slow, spiraling coo. A breeze dances through the window, and from somewhere distant, a tambourine jangles once and then stops. You let yourself melt into the quiet. It's been a long voyage. Socotra is a strange place. The Greeks once thought it was inhabited by phoenixes. Arab traders swore its mountains held secret groves of cinnamon trees guarded by giant bats. Historians still argue whether its fabled dragon's blood resin was used more for dyeing cloth or for repelling evil spirits. You suspect the answer is both, depending on your grandmother's opinion. By late morning, the inn comes to life. Other travelers begin to arrive. 2 Yemenite traders with enormous spice baskets on their backs, a Somali herbalist with an ivory-handled walking stick, and a monk who carries nothing but a jar of sesame paste and a goat on a leash. You exchange sleepy nods. Conversation here is minimal, spoken in a mix of Arabic, Swahili, and the universal language of "I haven't bathed properly in a month." The innkeeper passes around small clay cups of tea steeped with cardamom and lemongrass. You sip yours slowly, savoring the gentle burn. The monk offers you a smear of sesame paste on dried flatbread. It tastes like slightly smoky peanut butter with a hint of sea air. At midday, the inn's kitchen opens. A single clay oven set against the back wall, where the innkeeper's daughter bakes dense flatbreads and roasts eggplant with cinnamon and vinegar. She hands you a bowl of rice and lentils, topped with slivers of spiced fish. You nod in appreciation, trying not to eat like you haven't had a proper meal in days, which you absolutely haven't. After lunch, you wander the coast, letting the sun bake the salt from your skin. Small crabs skitter across black rocks. Seaweed waves like ribbon in the shallows. You pick up a shell just because it's pretty and put it in your pocket. Back at the inn, the monk is humming to his goat. The 2 Yemenite traders are fast asleep in a corner, heads lolling against their spice sacks. There's an old belief here that sleep near the sea is stronger, that the salt air carries dreams farther inland. where they can be collected and sold like precious resin. You don't know about that, but when you lie back down for your afternoon nap, you drift off so quickly you forget to remove your sandals. Evening creeps in with little fanfare. A bell chimes somewhere up the hill. Lanterns glow in tiny windows along the shore. The innkeeper replaces the dried herbs hanging near your door with fresh ones, probably for the scent, possibly for protection, definitely for tradition. The goat chews on the corner of someone's cloak, unbothered. You eat dinner by moonlight, more bread, a bit of smoked honey, and a tart little fig soaked in vinegar. The monk tells you, quite seriously, that the island is home to invisible cats who guard the spice crates at night. You nod politely. It's not the strangest theory you've heard today. You return to your room and lie down on your clove-stuffed mat, full, slightly sunburned, and more relaxed than you've been in weeks. Outside, the tide creeps in. Inside, the breeze smells like cinnamon and salt. You sleep like a dropped anchor. Morning on Zanzibar comes slowly, like molasses poured over a warm stone. Your ship drifts gently into the harbor as the sails droop, tired from a night of dodging surprise squalls and suspiciously floating bundles of rope that may or may not have been sea snakes. You've barely slept, your hair smells like smoked fish, and you're down to your last clean tunic, which already has a mysterious clove-shaped stain near the hem. But the air is different here, softer, spicier. It smells like cardamom pods crushed underfoot and warm coconut husk drying in the sun. The harbor bustles with low chatter and the occasional squawk from a rooster in someone's satchel. Dhows rock gently along the docks, loaded with ivory, incense, and at least one crate of noisy chickens that are definitely not paying for their passage. You step off the ship and into Zanzibar's stone town, your legs wobbling from the journey. The alleys are narrow, the doors intricately carved, and the shadows cool and fragrant. You wind your way through the sleepy morning crowds, traders in loose saffron robes, boys carrying bundles of lemongrass, a hen darting between baskets of dried mango, and eventually find it, the inn. It's built from coral limestone with thick wooden shutters and a wide balcony draped in bright textiles. The sign out front simply reads Karibu, or Welcome, though the cracked paint makes it look like Karibish. Inside, a sleepy Swahili innkeeper lifts one eyebrow, squints at your sandal blisters, and wordlessly waves you toward a side room. It smells like cardamom and hibiscus, and something gently toasting over coals. You pay your way with 2 cinnamon sticks and half a pinch of nutmeg. You hope that's enough. The innkeeper doesn't even count it. He just nods and sets down the kettle he's been heating, pouring a thick coconut milk tea into 2 clay cups. Hot, he warns. Also dreamy. You're not sure whether he means the flavor or the effect, but you're too tired to ask. The room is simple but glorious. A reed mat, 2 cushions stuffed with kapok and woven mosquito netting dyed a faded teal. A carved window lets in sea breezes and the sound of distant drumming. As you sip the tea, your mind begins to drift. The warmth spreads through your chest like a lazy tide. You lie back and realize, yes, this inn is exactly as advertised. Not glamorous, not famous, but deeply, wonderfully sleepy. Zanzibar was once a crown jewel of the spice trade. Its cloves were legendary, its cardamom aromatic enough to send entire shipments of grain just by proximity. Historians still argue whether its spiced coconut drinks were ever actually used in diplomatic offerings, or whether that's just a romantic invention of 19th century travel writers. Either way, you're glad someone thought to steep coconut with ginger and cardamom, because it tastes like bedtime in a cup. Later, you take a stroll through the market beside the inn. Baskets overflow with tamarind, cinnamon bark, and dried hibiscus petals. A boy is selling limes, stacked in pyramids, next to a man advertising sandalwood paste that supposedly cures both headaches and heartbreak. You buy a piece of sticky guava candy wrapped in palm leaf and eat it while walking past rows of lanterns, each with a different carving, stars, waves, a laughing turtle, and one that just looks like someone gave up halfway through a camel. Back at the inn, it's siesta time. Even the goats are asleep. You lie down again under the mosquito netting, watching the fan spin slowly overhead. The innkeeper has placed a bowl of star anise by your bed for scent and serenity. He also leaves you a square of honey-soaked rice wrapped in banana leaf. You nod your thanks and curl up like a cinnamon bun. A dream takes you, something about floating over a garden of clove trees, each leaf shimmering like silver, with tiny brass bells tied to the branches so they jingle when the wind blows. A goat is playing a flute in the background. You don't question it. This is Zanzibar. Things make their own kind of sense. When you wake again, the sky is amber. The air is thicker now, humming with insects and soft voices outside. You rise slowly, pad over to the balcony and look out at the dusky harbor. Lanterns bob gently on the water, tethered to boats or simply left to float, perhaps as offerings or as lazy fish bait. A traveler next to you murmurs something about the inn's roof being made from old fishing nets, blessed by sea priests to keep out bad dreams. You nod sagely. Why not? Dinner is served in wide clay bowls, rice cooked with saffron, grilled eggplant with cumin, and slices of mango tossed with vinegar and chilies. The innkeeper brings out a jar of tamarind chutney for the brave and grins as you try a spoonful. It's like a slap made of fruit and fire. You cry a little. He pats you on the back. That night the drums pick up again, slow and rhythmic. You lie under the netting, bellies full, air still, and begin to drift once more. You swear the scent of cloves drifts from the walls, or maybe it's your pillow. Either way, it smells like stories. As you fall asleep, a gecko watches you from the ceiling beam, blinking slowly as if to say, "Get some rest, traveler. There's still a long road ahead." The waters off Hormuz are a bruised silver when you arrive, choppy and cold, stirred by a rising wind that smells like iron and brine. The ship creaks against the dock with a groan of weary timbers, and the crew begins unloading crates stacked with dried lemons, pearls, and bricks of something labeled saffron, probably. You step ashore onto stone steps worn smooth by centuries of salt and sandal soles. Hormuz is not a gentle place. It's impressive, sun-baked and noisy with merchants shouting across rooftops. But nestled just beyond the main market, tucked between a mosque and a warehouse of saltfish, sits the inn, low and square, made from pale stone with inlaid tiles the color of crushed lapis. You can't see the sea from its courtyard, but you can hear it murmuring around the corner, like a tired storyteller trying to remember where they left off. Inside, the air is unexpectedly cool. The stone floor has been swept smooth, and fine sand still lingers in the cracks. The inn's walls shimmer faintly with salt crust. Apparently, the builders used a mortar mixed with seawater, believing it would keep spirits and termites at bay. Historians still argue whether this was spiritual architecture or just a bad idea that happened to hold up. You're led to a small room with arched windows and patterned cushions scattered across the floor. The innkeeper is an older man with henna-stained fingers and a habit of humming old Persian lullabies while folding laundry. He pours you a drink of something sour and perfumed, perhaps rosewater with dried lime, and offers a small dish of sugared walnuts to settle the nerves. You weren't aware your nerves needed settling, but you eat them anyway. They're delicious. This particular inn has a secret. The floors sparkle, not like a fairy tale, but literally. Crushed fragments of local salt crystal are mixed into the plaster, and in the right light it glows faintly beneath your feet, a small touch of opulence for otherwise dusty travelers. The innkeeper claims it keeps nightmares from settling in, or maybe it just helps sweep away scorpion droppings. Either way, you're charmed. You nap before supper. The sound of bells from a passing camel caravan fades into the walls like music underwater. A wind chime made of abalone shells tinks outside your window. Someone walks by carrying a string of garlic and muttering about ships from Gujarat bringing the wrong kind of clove again. The air is thick with the scent of roasted chickpeas and date molasses. When you rise, the sky is fatting from coral to navy. You join the other guests for a meal of lentils spiced with cumin, dried apricots soaked in vinegar, and a flatbread crisped with sesame. Conversation is quiet, full of slow pauses and the occasional joke about camel taxes. A wide-eyed boy from Basra tells you he saw a jinni this morning in the marketplace. He describes it as having feathers, hooves, and a fondness for figs. The innkeeper smiles but says nothing. After dinner, you wander the rooftop. The city below glitters like the salt in the floor, lanterns swaying in every alley, their light dancing against wind-polished stone. You hear the calls of night traders echo through the narrow streets: pepper, fresh pepper; myrrh, good for teeth; cloves sharp enough to cut dreams. You sit on a low bench and watch the tide roll in, ink black and moonlit. Hormuz at its height was a trade city of legend, a stopping point between Persia and the riches of the East. Spices, gems, silks, and even ice, yes, actual ice, once passed through its port. Scholars debate whether Hormuz inns catered to royal caravans or just to merchants and their apprentices. But this one feels timeless. Back in your room, the cushions are warm from sun. The walls are cool from stone. A tiny oil lamp flickers beside your mat, casting a soft, golden glow. You lie down and the floor beneath you catches the light again, just barely. You imagine it's starlight that drifted in and got caught in the cracks. You can't prove it's not. As you fade into sleep, a breeze lifts the gauzy curtain. The scent of lime and cinnamon seeps in. You dream of ships made entirely of gingerbread, sailing over salt crystal waves, trading sweet things for stories. You arrive in Malacca just as the sun begins to dip behind a curtain of storm clouds, painting the sky in shades of bruised gold and smudged charcoal. The harbor pulses with life, ropes creaking, spices spilling, and the thick, unmistakable scent of cinnamon oil mingling with the sharper tang of wet wood. Your ship, now looking thoroughly worn, slides into its berth between two larger vessels from China, each stacked high with porcelain and rice sacks tied up with reed rope. The air here is thick, humid, fragrant, and heavy with the rumble of approaching rain. Malacca isn't just a port. It's a maze, a market, a melting pot of merchants and their mischief. Portuguese, Arab, Malay, Tamil, Javanese, Chinese. They all jostle elbow to elbow in the spice warehouses that line the shore. You shuffle through a fish market, duck under a canopy of drying chilies, and pass a monk attempting to exchange a silver bell for a basket of tamarind. The inn you're looking for is built atop one of those very warehouses. The sign above the door is carved into old teakwood and reads simply, "Sleep first, deal later." You like its energy. The stairs creak as you ascend, past coils of rope and baskets of cloves that smell like someone lit a holiday candle and then threw it into a fireplace. The innkeeper, a Javanese man with startlingly good posture and a hat made from woven pandan leaves, eyes you up and down. He doesn't say a word. Instead, he passes you a warm towel and a tiny wooden key. You nod. He nods. Mutual exhaustion achieved. Your room is above a cinnamon cellar. This sounds romantic until you realize that the scent is so strong it has somehow soaked into your eyebrows. Still, it's cozy. Low ceiling, slatted windows, a mat made from woven pandanus, and a pillow that smells faintly of vinegar, likely from a nearby pickling jar. Through the floorboards, you can hear the clatter of spice crates being shifted and the soft hum of someone singing in Tamil. As you lie down, the rumble of thunder shakes the wooden beams. Rain begins to fall, slow at first, then furious and fast, drumming on the roof like an impatient chef waiting for curry to thicken. It's oddly soothing. You feel like a cardamom pod tucked in a warm, damp jar. Malacca is a city of spice and speed. Historians still argue whether it was the most valuable port in Southeast Asia or simply the loudest. By the 15th century, it had become the heart of maritime trade, with over 80 languages reportedly spoken in the market on any given day. But up here in the loft, you only hear the rain and the distant thunk of a wayward pepper sack falling over. You drift into a nap, interrupted only once by a smuggler. Yes, really. You wake to the creak of a trapdoor in the corner being quietly opened. A figure slips out, a wiry teenager with a basket under one arm and a very guilty expression. He freezes when he sees you, then shrugs and whispers, "Just cardamom, not yours." You give him a thumbs up. He disappears again. Apparently, this inn is unofficially connected to the spice smuggling scene. It's all very polite, though. No shouting. Just the occasional sneaky delivery of overtaxed cinnamon or contraband nutmeg. You go back to sleep. Dinner is served downstairs, if you know where to knock. The innkeeper leads you through a back hallway into a tiny room with no windows, just candles and cushions. The food, unreasonably good. Sticky rice steamed in banana leaves, spiced fish wrapped in pandan, a sour mango salad with ginger and toasted coconut. You wonder briefly if you've accidentally wandered into someone's wedding. A nearby guest hands you a cup of tamarind wine and smiles sleepily. Later, you find yourself leaning on the balcony rail, watching the city lights blink between sheets of rain. Lanterns sway in the storm. Somewhere far below, you hear someone shouting about misplaced saffron. You smile. Everything here is fragrant, slightly chaotic, and quietly magical. Back in your room, you place a piece of ginger candy under your tongue and lie down. Through the floorboards, the scent of cinnamon lulls you again. You imagine this place a century from now, still full of voices, still dripping with spice and stormwater, still helping weary travelers close their eyes. And in your dream, a crate of clove opens itself and hums a lullaby in all 80 languages. You're in Hoi An now, a town that doesn't so much bustle as gently shuffle. The docks greet you with swaying lanterns and the sound of water slapping wood in no particular hurry. Your ship barely nudges into place before a longboat approaches, rowed by a girl with a sun hat the size of a ceiling. She hands your captain a folded scrap of paper and leaves without a word. No one seems confused by this. You're learning not to be either. Hoi An was once a great port of silk and spice, a meeting place of traders from Japan, China, India, and beyond. Today, it seems like the entire town is painted in soft, sleepy pastels. Ochre, rose, faded jade, with roofs that lean like old men, and doorways trimmed in delicate carvings of dragons or drifting clouds. The inn is tucked between a silk merchant and a tea shop, nearly invisible behind a cascade of flowering vines. A low wooden sign swings quietly above the door, painted with a tiny moon, a steaming bowl, and what appears to be a sleeping duck. You take this as a good omen. Inside, it's dim and warm, lit by red and amber lanterns that smell faintly of wax and star anise. The innkeeper, a round-faced woman with ink-stained fingers and an uncanny ability to appear without sound, gestures you upstairs. No questions, just a nod and a steaming mug of something murky and herbal placed into your hand before you've even dropped your pack. Your room is all polished wood and silk. The bed is low and layered with folded quilts dyed in soft purples and saffrons. A lacquered cabinet holds a bowl of candied lotus root, and the window opens onto a lantern-strung alley where someone is quietly playing a two-stringed Dan NGU Y letter 1EC7T. You lean out just enough to feel the cool, jasmine-scented breeze. Below, two children are playing a very serious game of shuttlecock, using an object that may or may not be a dried mushroom. You sip your tea and lie down. The floor creaks with the comfort of age. Through the paper walls, you hear a trader discussing mooncakes, a cat snoring softly, and the distant, rhythmic snap of silk bolts being unfolded. You close your eyes for a moment, then several. Hoi An's history is woven from threads of spice and silk. It served as a major trade port from the 15th to the 19th century, its waterfront crowded with Chinese junks, Japanese Red Seal ships, and Portuguese caravels. Historians still argue whether it was the silk or the cinnamon that first drew global attention, but you suspect it was the rare atmosphere of peace and politeness that kept traders coming back. Later, you wander down the steps and into the kitchen, where the innkeeper offers you a bowl of pho, fragrant, earthy, laced with star anise and lemongrass. She passes you pickled shallots on a tiny ceramic plate shaped like a koi fish, and gestures for you to sit near the window, where the breeze carries music and soup steam into the night. A local trader joins you, quiet, tall, wearing a robe embroidered with turtles. He explains that the inn was once a rest stop for silk porters traveling overland. The soft floors were meant to ease aching knees, and the dim lighting was intentional. Better for dreaming, he says, as if this were just common design logic. You ask about the duck on the sign. He smiles and says, "The duck never left, still sleeps in the attic." You both agree that's fair. That evening, a small group gathers on the rooftop. Merchants, visitors, one small dog in a basket. Lanterns flicker in the dusk, casting everyone in soft light and even softer shadows. Someone begins telling stories about a cursed spice shipment that turned a man's beard permanently green. Another insists that a ghost lives under the floorboards but only hums lullabies. No one argues. Everyone just sips tea and nods. Back in your room, the night is warm. The innkeeper has left you a fresh quilt, folded into the shape of a sleeping crane. You don't ask how. You place the last of your candied lotus root on the windowsill for the attic duck and slide beneath the covers. The lanterns outside sway gently. Somewhere, silk rustles like wind through grass. And in your dream, you float down a river made of tea, guided by a duck with excellent conversational skills. By the time you reach the Maldives, you are sun-dazed, salt-crusted, and mildly convinced your kneecaps have absorbed at least half a peppercorn each. The sea here is shockingly blue, like someone dyed the world with lapis lazuli and forgot to rinse. You disembark on a sandbar so soft your footsteps vanish instantly. A boy with a reed whistle waves you toward the island, then vanishes into the palm trees, still whistling a tune you're fairly sure is stuck in your head forever. The island is tiny, cozy, the sort of place where no one locks their doors, but everyone knows if you borrowed a lemon. It smells like sea wind, roasted coconut, and some sort of mysterious floral smoke drifting in lazy spirals from somewhere inland. The inn here doesn't sit beside the sea, it hugs it. A collection of raised wooden huts, lashed together with rope and resting on stilts that creak in the surf like sleepy knees. The innkeeper is asleep in a hammock when you arrive. A cat lies across his chest, swishing its tail with the slow authority of someone who decides when check-in happens. You wait politely. A few minutes later, the innkeeper stirs, squints at you, then wordlessly points toward a hut labeled with a tiny fish painted in indigo. You take that as your room key. Inside, your room smells like sun-dried thatch and cloves. The mattress is a folded pile of woven mats, layered in alternating shades of russet and teal. A bowl of jackfruit sits by the window, alongside a tin lamp shaped like a turtle. You lie down. The tide murmurs beneath your floorboards. You are, technically, floating. The Maldives were never the biggest hub of the spice trade, but they were essential stopovers for ships needing rest, water, or just a decent coconut. Traders passed through here for centuries, often leaving behind stories, seeds, and occasionally, unwanted in-laws. Historians still argue whether Maldivian coconuts were used as currency or simply bartered for stories and mended sails. As you nap, you dream of birds with cinnamon-feathered wings carrying tiny satchels of nutmeg from island to island. You wake up only because the innkeeper's cat has decided your leg is also a hammock. It yawns directly into your face, then curls up and purrs like a small, smug volcano. Later that afternoon, you explore the island. Children run barefoot down coral paths, laughing with their mouths full of sweet palm syrup. Women in saffron wraps stir cauldrons of fish curry under palm awnings, and old men sit beneath shade trees, arguing about whether clove bark can treat heartbreak or just indigestion. One insists he once swallowed a whole cardamom pod and dreamed of flying for 3 nights. No one disputes this. Dinner at the inn is served on large banana leaves. Spiced rice, dried tuna floss, and something they call murra sambal, which sets your eyebrows tingling in the best way. You eat slowly, watching the lantern sway overhead and listening to the ocean crawl toward your toes. The cat, still convinced you're a pillow, returns to resume its reign of nap tyranny. That night the inn sways with the rhythm of the tide. The wooden stilts creak like old sailors telling bedtime stories. From your window, you see phosphorescent plankton glowing in the waves, making the sea look like someone stirred in a pinch of stars. You fall asleep mid-thought, wrapped in the smell of cinnamon, coconut oil, and salty wind. In your dream, you follow the reed whistle boy down a trail of floating peppercorns, through palm forests and into a hut where a turtle offers you a bowl of soup and asks about your journey. You answer honestly. You arrive in Calicut just as the streets are waking up, though waking up might be generous. This place never really sleeps. It just dozes with one eye open and a nose full of spice. The air is heavy with roasting black pepper, and somewhere close, someone is definitely burning mustard seeds in butter again. You cough once, tear up involuntarily, and declare yourself fully awake. Calicut, now Kozhikode, was once known as the City of Spices. And from the moment you step off the ship, it's easy to see why. The port swarms with traders, Persian, Arab, Tamil, Chinese, waving arms and shaking fists, offering cloves, turmeric, pearls, indigo, and occasionally a goat that is not for sale, unless the price is very persuasive. Children carry cinnamon bundles on their heads like party hats. A man with silver rings on every toe is arguing loudly about cardamom taxes. You dodge him and keep walking. Your inn is nestled at the edge of the bazaar, just far enough from the noise to sleep, just close enough to smell fried plantains all day long. Its walls are made from laterite stone, cool to the touch and stained red from years of monsoon winds. A carved mango tree grows from the center of its courtyard, its branches strung with bells that chime gently in the breeze. Hanging on the entrance is a sign made of charred teak. Rest house for traders, scribes, and wanderers, also one elephant once. The innkeeper greets you with a wide grin, a dish of jaggery, and a cold towel infused with vetiver. He does not speak much, but gestures with great enthusiasm, pointing to a staircase, then to your shoes, then to his own bare feet. You get the message. Your room is upstairs, spare but elegant. The walls are lined with silk hangings in rich indigo and pale rose, and a large brass bowl in the corner holds dried jasmine blossoms. A ceiling fan carved from coconut wood turns slowly above you. The bed is wide, low, and covered in soft cotton sheets that smell like lemon leaves and talcum powder. You collapse onto it and are instantly horizontal. As you rest, the day continues outside. A procession of monks in marigold robes passes the courtyard, chanting softly. The innkeeper lights incense in the hallway, and the scent curls beneath your door, frankincense, ginger, and something floral you can't quite name. You drift in and out of sleep as voices rise and fall, merchants haggle, and the mango tree bells tinkle like polite rain. Calicut was the first Indian port where the Portuguese landed in 1498. But long before that, Arab and Chinese traders had made it their home away from home, exchanging everything from black pepper to porcelain to tailies of fire-breathing chickens. Historians still argue whether Calicut's pepper was truly the black gold that launched 1,000 ships, or whether it was the reputation for low taxes and good fish curry that sealed the deal. When you wake again, the sun has dipped low. The courtyard glows with warm lamplight, and someone hands you a plate of banana chips dusted with chili powder and sugar. You take one bite and immediately understand why this place will never be forgotten. Dinner is a communal affair, seated on the floor, surrounded by traveling traders, pilgrims, and one local poet who mostly eats in silence and occasionally mutters the word coriander as if it's the answer to life. The food is glorious. Appam soaked in coconut milk, okra stir-fried with mustard seeds, and rice so fragrant you half expect it to hum lullabies. You eat everything, twice. After dinner, you step out into the courtyard. The air is soft, the bells still chiming, the sky clear except for one stubborn cloud that looks suspiciously like a cow. A musician plays a slow, winding melody on a bamboo flute. Fireflies blink lazily in the garden, their glow reflecting faintly off a small pool of water. Back in your room, the fan spins a little faster. You lie down, full and peaceful, the smell of pepper and jasmine wrapped around you like a second blanket. The innkeeper passes your door once more, humming to himself, barefoot and smiling. You fall asleep thinking about mango trees, banana chips, and that one poetic traveler who may or may not have been right. Maybe coriander is the secret to everything. By the time your ship limps into Muscat, the sails sagging and the crew somewhere between delirious and dehydrated, you are deeply, profoundly sunburned. You smell like tamarind and despair. But on the horizon, the ochre cliffs of Oman rise like the rim of some ancient brass bowl, and Muscat gleams at their base. Whitewashed walls, domes the color of date syrup, and minarets shaped like calligraphy. The harbor is calm, shockingly so, almost suspicious. You glide toward a dock flanked with date palms and canopies stitched from goat hair. A small child immediately offers you 3 varieties of frankincense and a packet of dried lemons for whatever ails your face. You nod politely and purchase them all. The inn you're seeking is older than it looks. Tucked beneath the shadow of a crumbling fortress wall, it's built into a curve of rock and cooled by ancient wind towers that funnel the desert air into soft, whispering breezes. The sign outside reads, "Rest House of Winds and Waking Dreams." A bit dramatic, but you're too tired to be picky. Inside, you're greeted by an Omani woman in robes of midnight blue, her headscarf held with silver pins shaped like birds. She says nothing at first, simply hands you a shallow brass bowl of rosewater to rinse your hands and gestures to a nearby tray of sesame flatbread and sweet cardamom tea. Hospitality here is not optional, it's atmospheric. Your room is a marvel of engineering. Thick walls, tiny slitted windows, and floors cool enough to make your heels sigh. There's a woven mat, a low wooden bed painted with pomegranates, and a faded cushion shaped like a camel. You lie back and stare at the ceiling, which is painted with the night sky, stars, constellations, and one lone date palm for artistic flair. As you rest, the sounds of Muscat ebb and flow beyond your window. A vendor shouts about saffron threads finer than your mother's hair. A camel somewhere is arguing with gravity. The breeze shifts and carries with it the scent of rose, myrrh, and an unmistakable whiff of grilled eggplant. Muscat's spice trade was quieter than others, less circus, more chess game. Its value lay in frankincense, myrrh, and dried citrus. Historians still argue whether Muscat was merely a way station or a crucial hinge in the Arabian spice corridor. You decide it doesn't matter. Right now, it's the most peaceful place you've ever been. After your nap, the innkeeper returns and offers you a bowl of hares, slow-cooked wheat with spiced lamb, alongside a cup of thick, sweet gawa coffee laced with clove and cardamom. You eat cross-legged on the floor as she recounts, in halting English, how this inn once hosted a traveling magician who claimed to be able to make peppercorns levitate. He was not very good, she adds dryly. Later, you explore the inn's small rooftop. From up here, the city looks like a string of pearls tossed along the edge of the desert. White domes gleam in the fading light. A muezzin's call spirals out across the dusk, slow and soothing. You feel something loosen in your chest, a tension you didn't know you'd carried since leaving Zanzibar. The evening air cools your skin as you sip more tea. Other guests trickle up, quiet, dusty travelers like yourself. One reads poetry aloud in Arabic, his voice deep and melodic. Another carves the shape of a dhow into a fig, for good luck. You smile. This is your kind of inn, poetic, fragrant, and just a little bit odd. Back in your room, the ceiling stars glow faintly with the last light. A candle flickers by your bedside, set inside a pierced lantern that throws gentle patterns across the walls, flowers, moons, and one suspiciously grumpy goat. You lie down, full and warm, your hair still faintly sticky with lemon balm. As you drift off, the wind tower sighs above you, exhaling desert air that smells like memory and cinnamon. In your dream, a tiny caravan of talking camels crosses the sands, carrying cloves wrapped in silk and singing lullabies in perfect harmony. You join in, off-key but enthusiastic. When your ship finally reaches Zanzibar, it's late afternoon and everything gleams gold. Wet stone, mango trees, even the harbor's ripples, which glitter like they've been dusted with ground turmeric. The air here smells like cloves. Not a hint of them, not a note. An avalanche. It clings to your skin, curls in your nose, and settles into your hair like a stubborn perfume. You've barely stepped onto the dock and already feel like a well-seasoned stew. The island hums with quiet confidence. You walk past carved wooden doors banded in brass, past alleyways draped in laundry, past a rooster standing atop a spice cart as if it were delivering a lecture. Every surface, from coral limestone walls to coconut stalls, seems to echo the soft shush of the tide. The inn is hidden behind a wooden archway carved with vines and spirals. There's no sign, just a painted seashell on the lintel and the faintest whiff of vanilla pods. Inside, you find a cool, shaded courtyard with an octagonal pool in the center. Frangipani trees lean overhead, shedding pale petals into the water like sleepy thoughts. Your host, a Swahili woman in a deep russet kanga and dozens of silver bangles, welcomes you with quiet grace. She offers you a chilled tamarind drink and a slice of spiced coconut bread before guiding you to your room, a low stone chamber with thick shutters, woven palm rugs, and a sleeping mat that smells like cinnamon and sun. You lie down and exhale. The bed doesn't creak, it sighs. Zanzibar's place in the spice trade was legendary. Clove, nutmeg, cinnamon, vanilla. By the 19th century, it was the clove capital of the world. Historians still argue whether it was Omani control or indigenous Swahili networks that made it flourish. You, sprawled beneath a mosquito net that drapes like soft cloud, mostly argue with whether to nap now or after dinner. A knock at the door solves the issue. Dinner is ready. Down in the courtyard, lanterns are being lit, each nestled in a hollowed gourd or glass jar strung with sea-polished shells. The meal is light and full of layers. Grilled octopus with coconut sauce, rice scented with cardamom and lime peel, thin flatbreads dusted with sesame and wrapped around stewed plantains. You eat in silence, not out of awkwardness but reverence. The clove-heavy air makes even chewing feel meditative. Other guests join. An old Indian spice trader sipping chai through a clove bud, a Chinese scholar sketching the food instead of eating it, a local storyteller with a voice like honey and gravel. She begins recounting the tale of a cinnamon thief who once disguised himself as a tree. No one questions it. Later, you walk the courtyard alone. The air is thick but cool, like velvet soaked in ginger tea. Moths flutter past the lanterns. Somewhere nearby, someone is playing a thumb piano, soft, curious notes that sound like the stars trying to talk to each other. Back in your room, the shutters are closed against the sea breeze, but not fully. The night air drifts in like a sigh, bringing with it salt, jasmine, and yes, more clove. Always clove. You lie on your mat, eyes drifting to the ceiling, where the moonlight filters through slatted wood in silver stripes. You sleep quickly, deeply, and in your dream, the clove trees of Zanzibar whisper secrets to you in Swahili. One tells you the world is round because spice longs to travel. Another offers you a carved nutmeg box that hums lullabies when opened. You thank them. You have no idea what time it is. Cochin welcomes you like an old friend with complicated furniture. The docks are cluttered. The air is salted with sea spray and roasted cumin. And the first person you meet tries to sell you an elephant bell for emotional support. You buy it, obviously. This port city, draped along the southwestern coast of India, feels layered. Chinese fishing nets stretch like ancient spiderwebs into the tide. Synagogues and spice shops sit side by side. Portuguese forts crumble next to gingerbread-roofed temples. The whole place smells like nutmeg and mango peel, and somehow also fresh paint, despite nothing appearing newly built. Your inn is tucked behind a crumbling Dutch warehouse, just far enough off the path to feel like a secret. The sign outside is painted with a sleepy moon and a bowl of something steaming, and underneath it reads, "The nap between spices." You love it already. Inside, a Malayali man in a white mundu greets you with a nod, a yawn, and a platter of banana slices fried in jaggery and ghee. No paperwork, no key. He simply gestures toward a flight of coral stone stairs and tells you your room has the breeze from all 4 directions. You don't know what that means, but you're into it. The room is high-ceilinged and faintly blue, the walls mottled with age and salt. Wooden slats let in sun and shadow in shifting stripes. Your bed is a woven cot, flanked by thick, embroidered pillows that look like they've been napping longer than you've been alive. A fan made from peacock feathers spins slowly above your head, creaking like a bored parrot. You lie down, the cot sighs beneath you. Somewhere below, a cat knocks over a tin spice box and then blames it on the wind. Cochin, now Kochi, was once the beating heart of Kerala's spice trade. Pepper, cardamom, turmeric, cinnamon, they all pass through here. The city's layers of culture are built on cloves and conversations. Historians still argue whether it was the Portuguese, the Dutch, or the Cochin Jews who perfected the spice networks, but everyone agrees the snacks were top tier. You nap briefly, half dreaming of cinnamon boats and coriander pirates. When you wake, the sky is turning golden and the air is thick with masala and stories. The inn's veranda has been transformed into a supper spot. String lights overhead, a wide table set with banana leaves, and a cast of characters that includes a German botanist, a Tamil textile merchant, and a wandering flute player who may or may not be lost. Dinner arrives in waves. Tamarind fish curry, lentil stews perfumed with curry leaves, pickled mango, papadums that shatter like dreams when touched. A jug of buttermilk is passed around like a sacred artifact. You eat in happy silence, except for the occasional giggle when someone's chili tolerance is exposed. After the meal, the flute player attempts a lullaby, and the German botanist insists on telling the tale of a nutmeg that once sank a canoe. No one cares if it's true. It's exactly the kind of nonsense the evening deserves. Later, you wander down to the edge of the canal behind the inn. Fireflies dance in the mangroves. The tide sighs against the dock. From nearby windows, you hear the gentle clink of spice jars and the soft rustle of saris being folded. You return to your room. The fan still turns. The cot welcomes you back. You lie still, belly full, head heavy, and heart quietly delighted. In your dream, you ride a spice cart drawn by ducks through the lanes of Cochin, past temples made of cardamom, chased by the scent of roasted fennel and approval. A cinnamon monk waves from a boat. You wave back. Everything makes perfect sense. You arrive in Socotra after a night crossing that can only be described as damp and philosophical. The sea was rough. Your fellow passengers were mostly goats, and you spent an alarming amount of time talking to a sack of turmeric just to pass the time. But when the mist lifts and you catch your first glimpse of the island's jagged coastline, dotted with bulbous trees and crimson blossoms, you decide it was all worth it. Socotra looks like it was designed by someone who only skimmed the instructions for Earth. The famous dragon's blood trees rise like umbrellas turned inside out, their twisted trunks casting shadow patterns across the white sand. The air smells of resin and salt, with the faintest note of dried figs and something distinctly medicinal. Your inn is a stone hut nestled at the edge of a plateau, with curved archways and faded blue shutters that barely hang on. A goat is sleeping in the doorway. You both pretend not to see each other. The host, a wrinkled man with eyebrows like driftwood and a walking stick made from coral, welcomes you in Socotri, then switches effortlessly to Portuguese, then Arabic, then something that might be French but also might be a long sigh. He gestures to a room with a smile and says only, "It has a tree." You open the door to find he is not joking. One wall has been built around a small, living shrub that seems perfectly at ease in the corner of your room. The bed is made from woven rope and layered blankets that smell faintly of frankincense and lemons. A lizard darts across the floor and disappears behind a jug of water. You lie down and blink slowly. The ceiling has been painted with constellations. Entirely wrong ones, by the way. There's definitely a jellyfish-shaped Orion. Socotra has long been a spice trade oddity, not for volume but for uniqueness. Dragon's blood resin, frankincense, aloe, they've all passed through here, bundled in cloth and traded in whispers. Historians still argue whether Socotra was a pit stop, a refuge, or a myth kept alive by bored merchants who just liked saying the name. You, pressed against a warm stone wall in a room with its own tree, don't care. Outside, the sun bakes the cliffs a color between cinnamon and sandstone. You nap for what might be an hour or a week. When you wake, it's dusk. The sky has turned violet and the wind smells sharper, like dried ginger and storm warnings. Dinner is served on a stone ledge overlooking the sea. A few other guests gather, traders, wanderers, a woman who claims to be mapping the dreams of spices. You're served lentil stew with crushed garlic and black cumin, flatbread hot from a clay oven, and tiny pickled limes that make your face do the Macarena. Someone lights a lantern shaped like a fish. Someone else begins humming a tune with no lyrics, just vowels and sighs. You lean back against the warm stone, full and dazed, watching the stars blink into place above the dragon's blood trees. Back in your room, the tree has bloomed. You don't know how or when, but its blossoms are red and glowing faintly. You touch one, half expecting it to hum. It doesn't. It just sits there, like the whole island being quietly magical and not needing to explain itself. You fall asleep to the wind, whistling through crooked branches, and the occasional mutter of your goat neighbor snoring in the hallway. In your dream, a caravan of turtles passes through your room. Each carries a bundle of myrrh and tells you a bedtime story in a different language. One of them just hums. You understand it perfectly. Salala greets you with rain. Not a heavy, thunderous downpour. No, this is the kind of soft, misty drizzle that makes everything smell better and everyone speak in quieter voices. It clings to the date palms, makes the frankincense trees glisten, and somehow feels like it's falling sideways. This city, cradled between desert and sea, isn't what you expect. Green hills, waterfalls, and an entire market that smells like a very polite explosion of incense. You inhale deeply and immediately sneeze. Someone hands you a tissue perfumed with rose water. You thank them, then promptly walk into a cart full of dried apricots. You're doing great. The inn here sits just outside the Al Hassan Souk, painted in chalky white and trimmed with faded green shutters. Its courtyard is ringed with benches covered in striped cushions and shaded by pomegranate trees. A wooden sign above the door reads, simply, House of Resin and Rest. The innkeeper is a tall woman with kind eyes and a headscarf the color of tamarind paste. She gives you tea with sage and honey before saying a single word. Room? She finally asks. You nod. She nods back. This is a relationship built on mutual fatigue and tea. Your room is cool and dry, with carved sandalwood shutters and faint decorative swirls painted in ochre and gold. A copper incense burner puffs out little clouds that smell like frankincense and ancient wisdom. There's a wide floor mat covered in thick quilts and a pillow that, frankly, should have its own name. Salala was the heart of the frankincense trade, shipping that precious resin across Arabia, Africa, and the Indian Ocean. It was the good stuff, pale, pearly, fragrant for weeks. Historians still argue whether it was used more for medicine or magic. Your nose, however, confirms that everything is the correct answer. You nap long and hard. When you wake, someone has left a plate of dates and a bowl of rosewater beside your pillow. You take one bite and immediately forget whatever decade it is. Outside, the rain continues. Not cold, not heavy, just the perfect mist for keeping thoughts gentle. You explore the souk in the early evening. Lanterns hang low. Stalls spill over with spices, carved wooden boxes, woolen rugs, perfumes so intense they make your memories hiccup. A man selling mastic gum offers you a story with every scoop. This one, he says, smells like the moon when it's in a good mood. You buy two. Back at the inn, dinner is a quiet affair. rice with saffron and lamb, yogurt with mint, cucumbers sliced so thin they may be theoretical. You eat slowly, listening to the courtyard's fountain trickle and the wind rustling through drying incense bundles hung from the rafters. After the meal, the innkeeper tells you about a shipwreck off the coast. She swears the sailors survived by floating on sacks of frankincense and singing lullabies to the sharks. It worked, she adds with a shrug, or so the sharks said. You sit under the pomegranate tree, sipping more tea, the rain stitching tiny circles into the flagstones. A cat you've never seen before curls up beside you and sighs dramatically. You sigh back. Later in your room, the incense has faded into something sweeter, softer. You lie down, the pillow now even more powerful than before. The sound of the fountain echoes faintly, like someone playing a water drum far away. In your dream, you follow a trail of glowing frankincense beads through a foggy forest of singing trees. One of them opens its trunk and offers you a blanket woven from rain and cinnamon. You accept. You always do. You arrive in Malacca just as the lanterns are being lit, red and gold, swaying gently above the cobbled streets like drowsy fireflies tethered to silk strings. The air is thick with humidity and the distant scent of grilled fish, but beneath it lingers something sharper, the unmistakable punch of star anise and clove oil, as if someone's been distilling spices directly into the atmosphere. Malacca, once the crown jewel of the Malay spice trade, feels like a city half asleep and half remembered. The buildings lean affectionately toward the canal, their paint peeling in shades of turmeric and coral. A monk, a merchant, and a monkey all cross your path within the same 5 minutes. None of them seem surprised by you. Your inn is tucked behind a bamboo gate carved with phoenixes and lotuses. There's a koi pond by the entrance and a tiny bell that rings when you breathe too close to it. A small woman in a sarong the color of green tea appears, holding a lacquer tray with pineapple tarts and lemongrass water. She gestures for you to follow, silently and with a faintly mischievous grin. Your room is upstairs, low-ceilinged and dim, with polished teak floors and a breeze that smells like candied ginger. A folded screen in one corner is painted with a scene of sailors trading nutmeg for silk under a rainbow that has definitely never existed in nature. Your bed is a thick bamboo mat with layered cotton blankets in shades of rust and periwinkle. You lie down and are instantly wrapped in humidity, serenity, and about 14 kinds of spice vapor. Malacca was once the hub where Chinese junks, Arab dhows, Indian ships, and Portuguese caravels all collided in a merry, chaotic dance of commerce. Nutmeg, pepper, clove, cinnamon, all changed hands here. Historians still argue whether it was this city's diversity or its sheer geography that made it irreplaceable. The local answer: we just had the best sambal. Your nap is brief but oddly vivid. You wake unsure whether you dreamed a conversation with a talking cinnamon stick or just overheard someone actually having it. You step onto the back veranda, where the canal gurgles gently past inky water lit with firefly glow. A rowboat drifts by, steered by a man wearing a conical hat and whistling a tune that somehow smells like tamarind. You wave. He waves back, offers a mango, then keeps floating. Dinner is served on the veranda floor, shared platters of satay, coconut rice, fried anchovies, and curried jackfruit. You sit cross-legged among travelers and locals alike. One man swears he once saw a ghost inside a clove barrel. A woman laughs and says, "That wasn't a ghost. That was my uncle looking for snacks." You toast with tamarind tea and call it a draw. Later, someone brings out an erhu and plays a song that ripples like rain on a silk umbrella. You lean against a carved column, watching the moon slide between lanterns. The canal murmurs secrets, the fireflies twinkle nonsense, and the air smells like a poem no one wrote down in time. Back in your room, the breeze carries with it faint laughter, curry leaves, and the distant clatter of wooden sandals. You lie down again, eyes heavy, limbs loose. The pillow smells faintly of cloves and laundry dried in monsoon sun. In your dream, you ride a floating market stall down a spice river. A parrot offers you dried ginger in exchange for a riddle. You get the answer wrong, but he gives you the ginger anyway. You looked like you needed it, he says. You do, you always do. Your final stop is a quiet one. Sri Lanka rises before you in the early morning haze, the hills behind the harbor wrapped in mist like shawls draped by a sleepy goddess. There's no fanfare, just the steady creak of ropes, the call of gulls, and the rich, earthy scent of cinnamon that seems to come from the soil itself. The town Gala, if the maps haven't changed again, has the kind of lived-in beauty you can't fake. Dutch colonial rooftops shaded by banyan trees, Buddhist shrines tucked into alleyways, and a lighthouse that blinks slowly toward the sea, as if reminding you not to drift too far. You disembark and follow your nose, literally, toward a hidden courtyard marked only by a clay tile arch and a faded mural of elephants carrying baskets of spice. A brass plate near the gate reads, "Sleepy House of Ceylon, open to the lost, the tired, and the mildly confused." You fit all three categories. The innkeeper is a young man with cinnamon-colored robes and a voice like sandalwood smoke. He doesn't speak much, but offers you a small handful of dried mango slices and gestures toward a hallway flanked with oil lamps. Your room is at the end, past a doorway strung with white jasmine. It's simple: a stone floor, gauze-draped windows, and a hand-woven bedspread the color of roasted tea leaves. You lie down, the fan creaking slowly above you. Outside, the sound of temple drums floats on the wind, soft as a heartbeat. The scent of cinnamon bark, cut fresh, sun-dried, and bundled in thick rolls, fills your lungs like a lullaby. Sri Lanka was once the center of the global cinnamon trade, long before the Dutch or the Portuguese turned it into a colonial chess piece. It was called Serendib, and later Ceylon. Historians still argue whether its spice trade was driven more by royal courts or hungry sailors, but what everyone agrees on is this: the cinnamon here isn't just flavor, it's memory. You drift into a nap, half dreaming of cinnamon forests where the trees whisper in verse. When you wake, lunch has been quietly left on your windowsill: coconut dal, red rice, fried eggplant, and a single, perfect cinnamon bun wrapped in a banana leaf. You eat slowly, surrounded by breeze and birdsong. That evening, you walk down to the sea wall, where travelers lean quietly against the stones and watch the sun slip behind a line of spice ships in the distance. Some are real, some are probably ghosts. No one seems bothered either way. A group of local children are flying kites made from rice paper and string. One drifts overhead, painted with a clove pod that smiles cheerfully. You smile back. You're no longer surprised when inanimate spices greet you. Back at the inn, the innkeeper is lighting small clay lamps in the courtyard. He nods as you pass and points upward. You follow his gaze. Above you, the sky is full of stars and the lingering perfume of drying cinnamon bark. You crawl into bed one last time. The sheets are warm from the day, the pillow smells faintly of milk tea, and the fan continues its endless, soothing circle. In your dream, you're offered a boat made entirely of cinnamon sticks. It creaks musically and floats down a river of chai. The moon offers you nutmeg. The stars hum a lullaby in 6 languages. You accept everything. You always do. And now, dear listener, the lamps are low. The inns are quiet. The spice sacks are sealed, the sea winds hushed. The traders have curled beneath soft blankets, their dreams fragrant with peppercorns and cardamom. You are still. You are warm. You are safe. The river of the journey slows, meandering gently through sleepy harbors and shuttered courtyards, past mango trees and moonlit doorways. The air grows softer, the footsteps lighter. Each sound, from a distant chime to the hush of a fan, is just enough to keep the world from going silent. Let the spices settle in your memory: the clove-heavy dusk of Zanzibar, the rain-laced calm of Salalah, the cinnamon-sweet dawn in Sri Lanka. Let the scents blend together until they are no longer names or notes, but something deeper, something timeless. You've traveled far tonight, across oceans and centuries, through laughter, through stillness, through spice-scented dreams. And now you've arrived. There is nothing more to do, no ship to catch, no inn to find. Only this moment, your breath, your body, your quiet. Sink deeper into the bed. Let the last edge of the dream curl around you like silk. The fan above still turns. The stars are still humming. The spices somewhere are still being ground by hands you'll never meet. But for now, just rest. Let the cinnamon boat drift. Let the dream sail on. Good night, traveler. Sweet dreams.